We're talking about growth from failure and experience. We had a good talk in FOE last night in our roundtable. We had a bunch of men in there sharing their experiences, sharing their failures, and one thing that I like to approach this topic with, one mindset that I like to have, is that failure is not necessarily a negative. That is a word that is used as almost a synonym to defeat, and that is not how I look at it. This is a word I've embraced most of my life and thought of as a platform, as a positive, as something that helps me get my bearings and decide what the next step is. And so it is really a tool. And that's how I've seen it. That's how I've built upon it. And one of the things we do in FOE is really help men shift their perspectives. And so a lot of that talk, although it might sound like a negative topic, is really about flipping that to the positive. It really is about how do you grow from this mentality? How do you grow from those failures and experiences?
Yeah, no, I like that, Eric. I like shifting it from learning through failure to learning through experience because I think it's very similar to the idea of like teaching your kids by letting them make mistakes, letting them fail, letting them fall down, however you want to phrase it. But that it's more important is the lessons that we learn. And I think what I've seen a lot, especially in men's groups around other men, is we tend to get stuck in this state of despair. We allow our identity to be shaped by the mistakes that we made. So instead of seeing it how you just described as an experience to learn or something that's going to make us better, a lot of men get stuck in that phase where they're like, I'm not good enough, I'm down, I don't know how to get out of this, and they really do feel stuck. So what I love about the call or just having these discussions inside the Fraternity of Excellence is we really get to dive deep and we get to try to understand that you're gonna get stuck. But what's great about it is having people in your life, especially other men, who can pull you out of it, who can help you overcome something that maybe you're not seeing, whether it's a blind spot or maybe it's just an insecurity or a fear that you really haven't addressed. And when you hear another man say, "Hey, man, I've experienced something similar and I've overcome it," or "If this is what I've done to make my life better," that really gives you some momentum to start climbing out of it yourself. So that's what I love. I love those conversations, and I really enjoy having them.
Yeah, that's the perspective shift. And so when I see another man absorb something I see as a negative, as a point of shame, and they've absorbed it and reflected on it as a point of strength, that to me, that's what snaps me out of my old state. That's what says to me, what if there's a different way to see this? What if there's a different way to experience this? And that's something that I'm always looking out for inside. I've got a growth mindset. I think there are some prerequisites for being in the group, right? Like you got to know that you want something different. You got to know that you want change. It doesn't mean that you need to know the path to that change or how to get there, but being surrounded by men who are actively working on it, who don't see it as a negative when they slip up or when they fail at something, right? So when I'm around other men who start to show me the positive aspect of what I consider a negative thing, it's like that was all in my head. That judgment, that feeling of shame, that feeling of keeping myself down or I'm not good enough ends up majority of the time that's on me. That's on me, and that's my perception of myself. And it's I've used the analogy. I do mountain biking. Sometimes you have somebody lead you into a hard jump. I don't know that I'm capable of doing the jump. Having someone in front of me physically show their body movement, their speed, they lead you in, they do the jump, and you're a lot more capable of making that jump because you've got someone to mimic, somebody to follow. And so when someone's there to help guide you, whether on purpose or just because they showed up to one of those meetings, that to me is an opportunity. And I think that's what we had last night. So a lot of guys, they weren't bringing up their failures as a negative in their life. They were bringing up those failures as a major shift to the positive in their lives. And so they had these moments that maybe in the past they'd beat themselves up over. But in this case, they were, what we made a point of in our roundtable was going around the room and how they shifted that to the positive. How did they build from it? How was that a point of growth? And it was cool to see. I think everybody's got a different experience. And at the same time, I think a lot of people have those failure points. And even you and I, we've probably got some floating around in our heads that we continue to hold on to and haven't shifted that perspective with, but that's all part of the game.
Yeah, and I want to clarify. We talk about the roundtable a lot. So every Tuesday night inside the Fraternity of Excellence, we have a call. We pick a topic, and we dive deep into something that's important for in men's lives. And we usually have a bunch of guys on the call, and everybody shares perspectives and ideas. And you talking about the mountain biking. Um, what came to my mind is when, similar to our calls, when you're around other men who are openly and willingly wanting to share, whether it's a failure and its experience, whatever it may be, it makes the group stronger, right? It would be like if you went mountain biking and everybody came out on 10 speeds and they're like, we're going to take the easy trail. You're never going to really get good at mountain biking, right? You're going to be taking the easy way, what's comfortable. So, not that these conversations are uncomfortable, but they're not common. So I look at that in the group is our strength is knocking down the barriers, letting other men know, like, hey, man, you can share openly. If there's something that is driving you crazy, something that's just like gnawing at the back of your mind and you don't know how to overcome it, let it out. Because more than likely, somebody's going to be able to tell you, like, hey, dude, this is how I conquered it. And it's you can use a million analogies to describe this. I think it's when you have a tribe of men coming together and everybody's pushing for excellence. There's a common standard that we have. We might not be all going to the same place, right? Some guys might be wanting to get good at mountain biking. Other men might want to learn how to lift weights and get in shape. Whatever the path is, it's theirs to own. I would say, and this has happened in my own life, and I wanted to know if this is something that you've dealt with. When I decided to better myself and really focus my energy and work on being a better man, I got results. They were slow, right? Steady progress. But like if I went to the gym and I started getting fit and in shape and muscles started popping out and I felt good, a lot of the men or a lot of the prior friends that I had, they were like, "Oh, dude, you've changed. Like why don't you want to come and eat some McDonald's with us and drink beer?" And to me, that's a sad reality because you start to realize that some of the people maybe you have in your life they don't want you to change. They don't want you to be better because then that would have them face the truth that they're not doing anything good in their life. But the reason I bring it up is inside FOE there seems to be this common denominator of we are going to go through hard things. We're going to work through it. We might fail. We might make mistakes, but we have other men around us standing shoulder to shoulder. Not, I don't want to say forcing us, but they are pushing us to be better.
Yeah, it's the point of the group. The point of the group is that we're holding each other up. It's not that we're complacent. It's not that we don't care about the other man. We made a good point about that last night. It's like I have never experienced rejection in the group. If I ask for help, we all know that we're in there to help each other. I've had harsh, insightful how I felt was harsh, insightful criticism, but it was really another man's opinion expressing about my behavior. And again, the more open I am to seeing those other opinions, the more likely I am to grow. I can form some empathy, I can form some compassion, I can form some understanding with other people and how they see me, and then I can see myself better. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in that. You asked me about my experience changing as I grow. Uh, I don't mean this literally, but sadly, I never really let anybody in, and so I didn't really have anybody to disappoint in my life. One of my biggest needs was just feeling lonely and having nobody to talk to, and yet my defenses were kind of naturally up because my whole life I just sort of took care of myself, and I was happiest when I was by myself. I did that so well that I didn't even think of it as a defensive nature. And I ended up with some pretty defensive looking body language. Most people just, I got a lot of commentary my whole life. You look upset, you look angry, or you look angry, whatever it is. It wasn't good energy. It wasn't really a pleasant vibe to be around is the way that I take it. Cause that really doesn't happen too naturally in my life. Only when I'm able to express myself, get into deeper conversations with people and really share the value that I bring. that's where my relationships come from, but they're not very fluffy surface level type things. And so I didn't I didn't hang out with those people at all, but in a way that was a detriment to my own life as well when I joined the group. And I was lonely. Like, simply put, I was lonely. I didn't have anyone to really talk to or go deep with. It didn't hit in the same way. I was just so averse to small talk. And I think that's where I got a little bit disgruntled at the world of just, screw it. Everyone just wants small talk. I'm not going to talk to anybody. And so I would just build on my own and keep to my professional life, which is where I did most of my communicating. But
Yeah.
one you brought up, I'd say one of the more interesting points last night, one of the perspectives that you might want to share, and that was outside of the group. You were talking about all the books you read before you discovered the fraternity, and how you would, I don't know whether you're working alone. You talked about talking to yourself in the mirror. I don't know if I should take that literally or not. But then when you entered the group, you're like, oh shit, there's other people in here who are thinking the same way that I'm thinking. They're working on themselves in the same way that I'm working on. That was a very similar experience to me. I was excited to almost get like thrown to the wolves and torn apart and understand myself and dissect my mindset and yeah, just grow with other men. So that sounded like you had a big impact there as well when you first joined.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. And yeah, it was something that I've done, right? It's look in the mirror and really try to find out more things about yourself. And the only way you can do that is be honest, whether it's literal or not, right? It really is a thought process. And I would say we are drawn to other men who, again, go down a similar path, right? Who want excellence in their life. Sometimes we don't know how to get there. Sometimes we have these psychological blocks, like you said. We just want to be left alone, or we really just want to be seen, but it's so hard and difficult for us. And I think there's different variations to that, right? And again, it's the introvert versus the extrovert. Both of them just want to be accepted.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it boils down to. But I would say my saving grace was, for a long time, man, I was fighting these things alone. I was, and it was exhausting. I'm not going to lie, man. It was tough to really feel isolated and nobody ever understood or could possibly understand what I was going through. And really, it was being a victim. I wasn't sharing. I wasn't being open. Um, but it was a lesson I had to learn, because what it taught me is to shut the hell up, put your head down, and just go do work, because nobody really cares.
That was like the only way you knew how to win, almost. Like, that's how I felt. Like, the reason I regressed and got so good at my business and doing those
Yep.
things, the only way I could feel good about myself. And so
Yeah.
I just went harder and harder in that direction. And it makes for interesting adults on the other side.
Well, and I would even say that was sort of the message, and probably it still is to this day, that's pumped into the brains of young boys, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, shut up, nobody cares, do the work.
Yeah.
Um, and to a degree, it helps, right? It could calm down like the ADHD brain and make you focus and be like, yeah, okay, nobody cares, let me do some work. But on the other end, when I, like you said, when I joined FOE, I realized I was like, whoa, man, there is nothing that unique about me. There are other men who have this passion of growth and strength and want to lead and be good men. I just was looking in all the wrong places. I didn't know it existed.
Yeah.
I didn't know that this was really going on behind the scenes. And I remember when I first joined, the theme was like, oh, it's like Fight Club. You don't talk about it. And I was like, oh man, I get it, but it's stupid. Why wouldn't we talk about this? Why wouldn't we share this with the world?
Right.
Like, why are men so afraid? If we're these big, strong guys working on, you know, being the best versions of ourselves, why are we afraid to share with the world what we're doing behind the closed doors?
Because even then, there's that inhibition of talking about emotions. Like, let's be legit. When we're coming down to it, we're talking about truth, emotion, vulnerability, and fill in the adjective that you want or the synonym or whatever to feel good about yourself, so you don't feel weak and downtrodden and all those things. Right? There's just I think there's a lot of self judgment and a lot of group judgment, and even I've heard from men that even just saying I'm in a men's group makes them feel like they're saying something dirty.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
It's crazy. Dude, I
I should be
remember.
ashamed to be a man in a men's group where we focus on the struggles of man.
Yeah.
What about that is shameful, right? And
Insanity.
there's an element of that, and some guys hold on to that. It's interesting.
Yeah. I remember there were, when I first joined, there were some men, I don't think they're in the group still, but they were like, my wife doesn't know him in this group. And I was like, what are you talking about, bro? You're making me mad. I'm getting angry by you saying that. I was like, my wife was like, go join, be a part of it, go meet other strong, like minded men.
Yeah.
I was like, hell yeah. So going back to what you were saying before about worrying about what other people think, right? Their perspectives, their opinions shaping and affecting you. I think one of the best things we can do as men is understand that we are in total control. We are in control of how we see things. If you're inside of the fraternity of excellence, it is up to you on how you view your position and your role there.
Hmm.
So I would say forget about what everybody else thinks and just do you. Grow, learn, ask questions. There are no dumb questions. We say that all the time. Be vulnerable, be assertive, be disagreeable, be compassionate, like embrace every emotion and feeling that is going on inside of you without a care in the world. That's how you are going to
Yeah.
expand your soul.
Well, that's like someone saying, "Who put you in charge?" And the person they're talking to isn't necessarily in charge, but they're acting like an owner. They're acting like a leader because that's what they want out of their own life. And so one is a very negative victim mindset, and one is a I take what I need to take care of myself mindset. Now, of course, there you could be a complete dick on either side of that spectrum. That's not what I'm talking about. But I have experienced that in my life, and where something just comes naturally to me, I am looking out for myself. I am taking opportunities that present themselves, or I'm creating opportunities like along the way. It's really just that perspective shift. And I always liked in my business, I loved having a bit of a flat hierarchy. Like no one's really over anyone else. All ideas are welcome. And it's up to the individual, though, to rise within that, to take ownership, to take leadership and do those things. You were talking about before you joined the group, it was really just you and yourself. And sometimes we talk about comparison in the negative, and sometimes we talk about it in the positive. In the group, when everybody's building and has that growth mindset, to me, that is an appropriate comparison. What are other good men building in their lives? How can I use that as my guide and then find my own path? Their answer is not my answer, but I can use that as a meter to see which direction I want to head in or need to head in versus jealousy or hatred or you're always walking all over me or right. It's not that type of comparison where I'm putting myself down, but I think that comparison is necessary. How do I know if I'm moving if I don't compare myself to a static object or a moving object? And so when you're in a group of essentially moving objects, that momentum builds. Like that's a legit thing, whether we're talking about physical reality or mental energy. If everyone in the room has a positive attitude and you're that one dude who walks in there and you're shitting on everybody, muttering under your breath, making fun of people, you're not going to last very long. You're going to get weeded out pretty quick. And I think that's a good thing to have in a group. And we're still human. We still say things. We still slip up, but we're a very forgiving group in that we call to the best of our abilities. We call it like it is. We say what we mean, and the man who's on the other side gets to reflect. Do I embrace this or not? Is this an opportunity for growth or not? But to me, that's the true benefit of being in a group like this, is that
Yeah.
ability to compare to other men that I look up to and to learn and grow from everybody's successes, failures, and experiences, not just my own, which is where I was stuck for 20 something years, man. It was all about connection for me. It wasn't about technical success. It was about building relationships. Like that ended up being so much more important to me. And so I learned a lot about that in the group on a daily basis. And
Yeah, it really is about connection.
mm,
It's about building connection, building trust, building bonds. And you can't have that if there's no honesty or truth behind it, right? Nothing's going to last. Everything's going to fall apart. And that's what I've seen. I've seen guys come in who, they put on a show, or they just they're completely entrenched in their own ego or what's best for them. And I would say, one of the conversations I had last night was based on, you come into FOE and you want to receive, right? You want to get things, you want to improve your life, you want to get advice, you whatever can help you moving the needle forward.
Hmm.
But at the same time, you get so much benefit by also giving, and not just giving, but believing that you have something to give, right? And we talk about how it doesn't, like, I don't always have to have the best nutrition plan to help Eric, live optimally. Sometimes it's just like, hey, man, I need somebody to talk to. Something's going on, and I don't even need an answer. I just need to vent,
Yeah,
and that's just as beneficial. So that gives you benefit, but it also gives me benefit because really I don't even have to do anything. I just have to show up, and I'm giving. So I want guys to understand that dynamic and how important it is that you just, and I don't want to make this too like hippie,
yeah, you do.
like the universe loves you, which I do believe, right? It's like people say, oh, you're such a dreamer. Why do you keep dreaming? And I'm like, who's not dreaming? Like, who are you hanging around? I want to be around people who are dreaming, man.
Mm.
I want to be around people who have dreams and have ambition and have goals. So I get it. Like that. Bottom line, we run the Fraternity of Excellence. It is a men's group. It's iron sharpens iron. We are exposing the vulnerabilities. We're getting men to find truth. We want them to take ownership in their life. I probably said it the wrong way, but it makes sense. It's powerful. It's impactful. Fraternity of Excellence. I think it's, we can't say it loud enough. We can't climb to the mountain and scream it any louder than we should. It's a place where men go to get help, they get improvement, and it is a brotherhood. So check it out, fraternityofexcellence.com. Boom.